Opposition cancels photo shoot and Prime Minister announces new department secretary. Women artists create campaign to end violence. And Hunters coach returns after lengthy lockdown.
This is National EMTV News with Helen Seah.
Good evening and thanks for joining us for National EMTV News. The opposition and government are adamant both sides have the numbers going into Parliament tomorrow. The opposition arranged chairs for a photo shoot to show their numbers, but this was later cancelled. Charmaine Poriambep reports.
The opposition is still adamant they have the numbers to oust the Marape government through a vote of no confidence when Parliament resumes tomorrow. Today, the opposition, camping here at the Crown Hotel, invited the media for a photo session to showcase their strength in numbers. The chairs were all lined up by staff of the opposition, but the photo shoot that was scheduled for 2 p.m. did not eventuate. The media was advised by 4 p.m. that the photo session was cancelled and we all meet at Parliament tomorrow. We were informed that the MPs couldn't make the photo session because they were still in a meeting. Part of the agenda is their choice of the alternate PM candidate. Security at the Crown Hotel is similar to that of Lolowata. At a crucial time like this, where lobbying is still ongoing, visitors to the hotel are stopped, questioned and thoroughly checked. Meanwhile, the Prime Minister issued a statement this afternoon confirming the appointment of Ambassador Ivan Pomalio as Secretary to the PM's department. He replaces Chief Secretary Ambassador Isaac Lupari. Prime Minister James Marape said NEC had approved the appointment last week. Ambassador Pomalio is a distinguished Papua New Guinean from Manus who worked as Managing Director of Investment Promotion Authority and Ambassador to APAC. The Prime Minister said the changes are part of his government's reform agenda in the public service. The Prime Minister thanked Ambassador Lupari for his contribution and said Ambassador Lupari had chosen not to apply for the position. Ambassador Lupari goes out as the longest-serving Chief Secretary in the country. Charmaine Poriambep, National EMTV News.
Attorney General Pila Niningi has confirmed the government side have filed a slip rule application to review the decision of December 9th that ruled that the November 17th sitting was unconstitutional. The Attorney General, in a statement released late this afternoon, says his lawyers have filed another application to have the orders of the court stayed pending the outcome of the slip rule. A third application, Section 19 Supreme Court reference, was also filed for the Supreme Court to establish proper demarcation between the Parliament and judicial arm of government. Niningi says the separation of powers is an important tenet of the constitutional democracy and the government wants the Supreme Court to review its decision. Meanwhile, the Attorney General says Prime Minister James Marape is expected to attend a Parliament sitting tomorrow at 10 a.m. In a closer look later in the news, Scott Wilder looks at the political events leading up to tomorrow's Parliament sitting. Small to Medium Entrepreneur Corporation, or SMEC, is looking at strengthening partnership with other government agencies to improve how SME operators conduct business in Papua New Guinea. This follows the conclusion of training desired to assist SME operators improve their business. SMEC now aims to include government bodies like the Investment Promotion Authority or Internal Revenue Commission to ensure SME operators register and obtain taxation identification numbers for their business.
Papua New Guinea has been described as the land of milk and honey. In monetary terms, it means PNG has great potential to grow the economy through the development of the SME sector, a sector that has not been fully utilized for economic gains. Through law reforms under the SME sector, more recognition and training is given to those in the informal sector. Trainings that are anticipated to provide basic or technical advices to livestock farmers, cash crop growers, or those with existing businesses with an opportunity for growth. From the training conducted by SMAC officers, it is desired to roll out action plans for 5 various businesses.
Working with the agriculture sector and all the commodity boards that we have, this is one huge area, potential is there. And when we were discussing this, we were looking at where there is a need for data collection. Government needs statistics. So by working with already the commodity boards, we can obtain some statistics on and then create a database and begin to know how to go about to collect all this. So the planning's been done around that, and also looking at how do we go out and empower the commodity boards, our stakeholders in agriculture, working with the Department of Agriculture.
At the moment, local business owners operate under the owner's name without formally registering their business. Thus, SMAC aims to bring in government bodies like IPA and IRC to educate SME operators during skills training to register business, obtain TINs, and access financial services like loans or opening of bank accounts.
Process of business registration is already made easier with the online registry, but to obtain TIN has been a difficulty and we had some discussions with IPA, and IPA has a current MOU with IRC that they're willing to expand that partnership to SMAC, so we can have the TIN facilitated or these trainings when we conduct them.
Tekla Gunga, National EMTV News.
A memorandum of understanding desired to promote a savings culture and harnessing investment opportunities for locals in East Sepik Province was signed between the provincial government and National Superannuation Fund, or NAS Fund. This partnership means local vanilla, coffee, cocoa or rice farmers can access NAS Fund savings product, as well as connecting farmers with NAS Fund short-term savings option, NCSL. This now allows for both parties to monitor the number of companies operating in East Sepik, which are registered with NAS Fund as contributors and pay superannuation for their employees. East Sepik becomes the first provincial government to partner with NAS Fund. You're watching National EMTV News. We'll have more of the day's stories after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back. 11 men are now facing the court in Vanimo over the death of 3 PMV passengers. The men are suspected of holding up a PMV truck at Wamarau in Nuku district in October this year and killing 3 men while severely injuring several others. West Sepik Provincial Police Commander Chief Inspector Moses Ibsagi said the 11 were arraigned at the Atape District Court and have been transported by boat to Vanimo to continue the committal court process. They are currently remanded at the Vanimo Correctional Facility. The PPC said investigations are continuing and more suspects are expected to be arrested. A 24-year-old woman was found dead this morning at Gabi village in Hanuabada. The victim's grieving relatives said she left the house in the early hours of this morning, advising them that she was meeting someone. She was later found at 6 a.m. half naked with only her t-shirt on and lying face down next to a drain. It appears she had encountered violent attacks during her last hours of life, as her body was covered with bruises and cuts. Police are calling on anyone with information on the death to come forward and assist. Forums in support of violence against women are becoming more creative in the campaign to eradicate all forms of violence against women and girls. In Port Moresby, women artists launched an art project this morning in support of the global awareness that women have equal rights as men and there is need to minimize violence against women and girls.
In attempts to reduce cases of violence against women and girls in Port Moresby, the National Capital District Commission has teamed up with UN agencies to address this issue. Through the Amazing City campaign, where NCDC promotes measures towards creating a safer Port Moresby for women and girls, female artists in NCD came on board to support this campaign. Teaming up with UNFPA, 10 women artists witnessed the launching of the art project known as By Her, For Her, supported by him.
All Mary artists, all staff, most people no one basani sa kama pose lo life lo mipla all Mary. But now was a mito thank you lo pobes pako pe larim disla sani kama lo life lo all Mary na mito thank you. Osem mipla sambla mipla school sambla mipla no school but mipla got talent lo mipla working disla painting na mipla talk thank you osem all Mary can make him anything all man make him long em.
This art project is part of the global 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. The campaign runs from the 25th of November to 10th December every year.
We are united. We respect each other in the family or in the community, in our city and our country. We can only get better. We can only prosper. We can only have better quality of life, especially bridging the gender divide. In our country, we have a big problem with the gender division. Men, we have more privilege, more advantage, more opportunity, more power.
For 2020, the global theme is Orange the World, Fund, Respond, Prevent and Collect, and challenges individuals to take actions to end violence against women.
Their talent, their skills, their abilities to show that they can and they are as good as men too and can partner men. And this is the key message. So this, the team here, represent the whole idea behind this initiative to show that this is a mural or painting by her, all artists here, all media, all drawing. For her, so was a message belong all. And the key message here is the family is stuck together, is united, and by strong.
Thekla Gunga, National EMTV News.
While the government's water, sanitation and hygiene programs stress on hygiene communities, the reality is that some communities do not have easy access to water supply. This is the case for the Noiega community engaged in the Wash Clean Pella community project in Goroka. Martin Moses from the Goroka District's Wash program said they are looking at ways to help the communities who are parts of the Wash project and don't have easy access to water. The Noiega community in Goroka is one of many others piloting the Wash Clean Pella community project. While the locals have grasped the Wash concept of building proper toilets, hand washing stations, and keeping a clean and healthy environment, their challenge in maintaining the project is the lack of access to water. Their main water source is a river downhill. This was one of the concerns raised during the certification and declaration of their clean community last week. This was the same for the Alenupa community as well. Following the declaration of the clean communities in Goroka, sustaining the project will be done in partnership with the District Development Authority. Martin Moses from the DDA Wash program said with regards to these communities who do not have access to water, they will be looking at ways to help them.
But we have plans in place to, through the support of the current member and the current fund that is here, we want to support. So in the next few weeks, we want to also put up a few water tanks for some of our ODF communities.
Lucy Kopana, National EMTV News, Goroka. And turning overseas, a pop star turned politician is attempting to unseat the Ugandan president, who's been in power for 35 years. Singer Bobi Wine is widely popular among young Ugandans, but his campaign has been marred with violence. Several of his supporters were killed by police.
It looks like a victory parade, but there's a way to go yet. Young Ugandans preemptively dub him the ghetto president. He's their man. Robert Chagulanyi, aka Bobi Wine, 38-year-old pop star turned politician, and probably, the most popular man in Uganda. But not everyone's happy about that. Among them, President Yoweri Museveni. Bobi Wine's latest release, a collaboration with Jamaican reggae artist Buju Banton, pulls no punches. If it takes a revolution, freedom will have to come. By the ballot or the bullet, let thy will be done.
People power! Just a few days ago, the regional police commander of Busoga region, where we are heading today, said to my face that he will shoot me in the head because he's a relative to Museveni.
The convoy heads east towards the lakeside city of Jinja and straight into Bobi Wine prophecy territory. For the pop star would-be president, performance is everything. But now he's swapped clouds of dry ice for tear gas, adoring fans' arms for armed riot police. His route repeatedly blocked, live rounds fired in the air, rubber bullets directly at people. Bobi Wine's music producer, Dan Magic, is hit in the face by a police baton round. It's knocked out several teeth. This time, Bobi Wine himself has escaped being silenced.
Every day it becomes more evident to me that facing a 35-year entrenched military dictatorship is hell.
The convoys reached the outskirts of Jinja. Then this. Live fire rings out as Bobi Wine's vehicle is diverted off to the right. Military now joining armed police. It's pretty clear that for them, the road stops here for Bobi Wine. His tires are shot out, a bullet hole in the windshield. He's twice been arrested. And this arrest, 2 weeks ago, triggered rioting in Kampala, with scores of people shot dead by police. Now 76, Museveni wants a 6th term. At first, he brought peace after years of turmoil, growth after stagnation. But Museveni didn't come to power through the ballot box and appears to have no intention of leaving that way.
What I'm telling President Museveni is that, first of all, we respected him. You know, he used to say the same things that I'm saying when he was my age. What makes you think that you stood against a dictatorship when you were our age, but we cannot? So, be true to your word. We are not going to give up. We are not your slaves, and we are not going to be slaves in our own land. So, President Museveni, I'm saying to you, give us liberty or death.
Bobi Wine had called off his campaign after yesterday's chaos, but tonight he's announced he's back in the fray. He's urged the former guerrilla commander he's up against to bow out with dignity, adding, "You don't want to go down like Gaddafi."
You're watching National EMTV News. When we come back, Scott White takes a closer look at the current political events leading up to the special parliament sitting tomorrow. Stay with us for the details. Welcome back to the news. In less than 24 hours, Parliament will sit to decide if the national budget will be passed and if we will have a new Prime Minister. The court put to rest questions surrounding James Marape's nomination and the legality of the budget sitting. Now it's up to Parliament to do its job. Here is a review of the week and the possible scenarios.
Parliamentary procedure and to uphold the rule of law It's been a chaotic 2 months in PNG politics, starting with the exodus of senior ministers and the Deputy Prime Minister to the opposition. If you were writing a book, that was the first chapter. The second would have been the 2 sets of legal interpretations the opposition sought from the Supreme Court. First was the election of James Marape as Prime Minister. The second was whether the Speaker, Job Pomat, had the legal right to override his deputy's decision and the parliamentary majority vote to adjourn to the 1st of December. The court has ruled on both matters. Both the opposition and the government are now preparing to take the action from the courts and the camps to Parliament in a few hours' time.
I think it's a challenge that the judiciary over the decades, during my term as a judge as well, and in my tenure as Chief Justice, we had issues of very sensitive political nature come before us. And so I think the judiciary is resilient. The judges understand the magnitude of the responsibilities vested in them by this Constitution, by our founding fathers who designed it, to vest the ultimate interpretive jurisdiction in the judiciary.
Today's decision by the Supreme Court is very, very clear that the Parliament must resume, and it must proceed with integrity, and it must proceed with a lot of fairness in its proceedings. That is why the Speaker's decision on the 16th of November was wrong and illegal, and court has found that to be the case.
The second ruling by the Supreme Court on the reference filed by the former PM, Peter O'Neill, is the greatest influencer of tomorrow's events onward. O'Neill, through his lawyers, sought clarification from the Supreme Court, arguing that the Speaker could not recall Parliament unilaterally after the majority had voted to adjourn. The Speaker's lawyers said he acted within his jurisdiction, which is Parliament, and he made the right decision. The 5-man bench led by Chief Justice Gibbs Salika found that the Speaker was indeed in contempt of Parliament. In short, the majority agreed to adjourn. He went against it on his own. The Supreme Court then issued orders effectively pressing the reset button on everything that happened on the 16th and 17th of November when Parliament was recalled. The 5-man bench declared that the Speaker's actions were unlawful and in contempt of Parliament. The session called on the 17th of November was invalid and ineffective. The budget passed on the 17th was also invalid, unconstitutional and ineffective.
What is happening in a short history, 45 years compared to many established democracies over centuries, is that it is evolving. Our Constitution is still being tested out, and the judiciary has been charged with the responsibility by our founding fathers to be the arbiter.
What I do when I write is I don't predict anything.
Michael Kabuni, who teaches political science at the University of Papua New Guinea, has been writing about the possible scenarios, the effects of the Supreme Court rulings, and the decision made by the Speaker.
So the first scenario is that the opposition will block the budget and then submit a notice for motion of vote of no confidence. The Parliament meets the next day. The Speaker advises the Parliament that there is a motion for vote of no confidence. They adjourn for 1 week, come back, and then elect a Prime Minister. The second scenario is Parliament meets on Monday. The government votes to replace the Permanent Private Business Committee. So it is this committee that vets the vote of no confidence motion. So they decide whether there is enough argument to change the Prime Minister. And then they look at procedural things like, did they follow the procedures, naming an alternate Prime Minister, having 12 members of Parliament sign the notice. So they vet these things. Now what happens is if government MPs dominate that committee, they can frustrate it by delaying it. If opposition MPs dominate that committee, they can do that basically in 1 day.
Any budget delay has long-term implications on all fronts, and while the focus has been on who becomes Prime Minister on the floor, the budget needs to be passed in order for government to function and for businesses to work with a level of certainty.
When we talk about instability, most people think about the Prime Minister. They don't think about the number of ministers that are changed. Every government that comes in changes ministers. Even the governments sometimes change departmental heads. And if you have another government coming in with different expectation, it will change whatever policies you had. It will affect the implementing agencies. So instability does not only affect the position of the Prime Minister. It affects the Prime Minister, the ministers of the government, departmental heads, line agencies, businesses who have projected their business based on what the last government's policies were.
By convention of the Westminster system, any Prime Minister that doesn't have the confidence of the House should resign. But like many things in Papua New Guinea, only parts of the system are used when and wherever convenient. History has shown that only in rare occasions have Prime Ministers resigned according to convention. And that leaves only one option, and that's to test the numbers on the floor.
And Chukai Sports is next. Fidli Sukina will join you with some sporting updates. Stay tuned.
Chukai Sports.
Good night and welcome to Trukai Sports. Coach of the SPPNG Hunters, Matthew Church, is glad to be back in Papua New Guinea after spending time back in Australia after the cancellation of the Intra Super Cup for the 2020 season. He says it is good to come back into the sport of rugby league after a lengthy lockdown in Australia.
I figured if the players had to learn...
It was supposed to be his first stint as SPPNG Hunters coach this season, but Matthew Church's time was cut short due to COVID-19. But Matt has since come back to Papua New Guinea and is glad to be back doing his job once more.
Good to be back, good to have the whistle back in hand, and good to be back around the boys, and especially the returning boys. It's good to catch up and renew our friendships and our relationships that we've got.
It's business as usual for Church, and he is looking forward to see how the new recruits fare in the team, especially during the pre-season.
But also the new guys, it's really exciting to give a guy an opportunity to make the Hunter squad, and I think most kids in PNG would enjoy or would aspire to be a PNG Hunter at some stage, so it's good to give those guys an opportunity.
Church believes in a mixture of youth and experience in the team for next season and is impressed so far with the level of fitness and stamina by the younger squad members in the side.
I'm really happy because I've been able to pick a number of younger guys, and I feel like that's a path forward. If we want those guys to move on to the NRL, then we need to try and expose them at the younger age so that they're more attractive to NRL or Super League clubs.
The Southern Conference of the Women's National Soccer League saw NCDFC able to hold their own against NCD Hekari United FC, drawing the match 2-2. NCDFC, made up of players from the Port Moresby Soccer Association, were able to take some positives from their match as they took on to progress in the competition.
The second round of the Women's National Soccer League matches kicked off this Saturday. As for the Southern Conference in Port Moresby, the first game saw the highly fancied NCD Hekari United draw with NCDFC 2-2.
More like underdogs. We just pick 2 or 3 from each team in PSSA Soccer League.
NCDFC went into halftime leading 2-0, but were unable to maintain their lead as Hekari United piled on the pressure, scoring twice to draw the match.
When Georgina came in, she boosted the girls' morale. Someone they can look up to, and it's like, okay, we can do this, and the girls stood out.
With most of the players stepping up to the national stage, NCDFC will be working towards producing consistent results.
We will keep working on our combination, our team formation, until the girls master our formation and team structure.
Arsilovai, Trukai Sports.
And Trukai Sports continues with cricket and rugby after the break. Stay with us.
Trukai Sports.
And welcome back to Trukai Sports. To cricket abroad, the Black Caps' unbeaten streak at home soil looks set to extend to 15 tests after a dominant display on day 2 of the second test against West Indies.
It was deja vu on day 2 for the Windies.
Puts out again.
Like yesterday, they couldn't hold on to anything apart from Jason Holder.
This time the skipper holds on to it.
Holder's frustration was evident. If it wasn't for all the drops, they could have been batting long before now.
That's another one down.
Instead, Neil Wagner joined forces with Centurion Henry Nicholls to put on a valuable 95 runs.
Hit that magnificently.
Nicholls passed 150 for the second time in his career, while Wagner passed 50 for the first.
Here it is, 50th Test match. What a time to do it.
Together they pushed New Zealand's total above 400 before Nicholls was finally dismissed.
In the air, taken.
Amazingly, by the hardest chance he gave during his knock of 174.
Just what New Zealand needed.
The Black Caps were finally dismissed for 460, with Wagner unbeaten on 66. The New Zealand bowlers made their total look like Everest.
Brilliant from Southey.
For the Windies, it was painful to watch as they lost 4 wickets for less than 30 runs.
Yes! Bowled him! What a ripper! Complete our thinking. In-swing and then one rearing back like that. What a bowler!
First Test centurion Jermaine Blackwood led the revival with another half-century before a flurry of wickets late in the day.
Oh, there it is! Got him.
The West Indies finishing on 124 for 8, still 336 behind.
And to rugby, he is one of the most influential and quirky rugby referees of all time, but after a colourful 17-year career, Welshman Nigel Owens today blew full-time on his international career.
A fortnight ago, Nigel Owens made history. His 100th Test match in charge, but no one knew the final whistle blow would also be his last.
Nobody has a divine right to go on forever. There comes a time where there's time to move on. So, the refereeing at the Test match level will come to an end now.
But not before leaving a huge impression on one of New Zealand's leading referees.
Nigel Owens will always be Nigel Owens. He's the best ever because of who he was on the field, and I don't think anyone will be able to ever do that again.
Owens' 17-year career saw him in charge of the 2015 World Cup final between the All Blacks and Australia, as well as the England versus New Zealand semi-final just over a year ago. But Owens had his own challenges. In 2007, he shocked the sports world by coming out as gay. He's convinced rugby gave him a second chance.
But one thing is certain he does lead on is inclusiveness and diversity and fair play and equality for all. And that is something I'm very proud to be part of.
He was very, very open about, it's okay to express how you feel. It's okay to be who you are.
And his approach was certainly different.
Nigel will be the first one to admit that he probably didn't know the laws as much as everyone else did, but what he could contribute to the game was something that, we find real hard to achieve, the way that he was able to manage players.
And more often than not, that was through his humour.
I'm straight to that one. The football stadium is 500 yards away. I don't think we met before, but I'm the referee on this field, not you.
He, as an individual, was probably the only one that can really do that kind of stuff. And so that's what we loved about him.
He may not be the international ref anymore, but Owen says his days of service to the game are far from over.
And that story wraps up Trukai Sports. Helen will be back with the weather report for the next 24 hours. Bye for now.
Trukai Sports. Trukai Sports.
This weather update is proudly brought to you by MoniPlus, with you always.
A look at the weather forecast for tonight and tomorrow in the southern region. Chances of rain showers, then fine partly cloudy weather in Port Moresby, partly cloudy with a shower or two in Daru, cloudy with a few showers in Kerma and Popondetta, and mostly fine with light southwest winds in Alotau. In the Mamasa region, partly cloudy with a shower or two in Ley and Vanimo. Fine, although partly cloudy with evening shower or two in Midang, and mostly fine, though partly cloudy in Wewak. In the New Guinea Islands region, fine with light west to northwest winds in Loringa, mostly fine weather, although partly cloudy in Kavieng, partly cloudy with a few rain showers in Kokopo and Rabaul, partly cloudy with thundery showers in Kimbe and passing showers, then fine weather in Buka. And in the Highlands region, a few showers, though partly cloudy in Mount Hagen, partly cloudy with a few showers in Goroka and Kondiawa, and fine partly cloudy weather in Mendi and Wabeg. Forecast for small crafts for the next 24 hours in waters of southern PNG, Indonesian border through Torres Strait to Daru, to Kiwai Island, to Kerma, to Yule Island, to Hood Point, and to Samarai Island, seas of 0.5 to 1.3 meters. Waters of eastern and western Milne Bay Islands, seas of 0.5 to 1.5 meters. Waters of Samarai Island, to East Cape, to Cape Bogo, through Huon Gulf to Finschhafen, including waters of Finschhafen through Vitiaz and Dampier Straits, to CRC and Long Island, to Karkar Island, Wewak, to Aitape, to northern PNG Indonesian border, and with waters of Manus and its western group of islands, seas of 0.5 to 1.3 meters. Waters of New Ireland to Bougainville and East and West New Britain, also seas of 0.5 to 1.3 meters. A look at the ocean forecast for PNG areas in the Coral Sea. Seas slight with southeast to southwest winds at 10 to 15 knots. In the Solomon Sea, seas slight with northwest to northeasterly winds at 10 to 15 knots. In the Bismarck Sea, northwesterly winds at 10 to 15 knots. And in the Pacific Ocean, seas slight with northwesterly winds of 10 to 15 knots.
The weather update was proudly brought to you by MoniPlus, with you always.
And that's the news, sport and weather for Sunday, 13th December 2020. From all of us at the newsroom, pleasant viewing, be safe, and bye for now.